Hey guys, see it's 1:30. Time to go live. Myself, they're just getting set up here. I'm not really set up yet. See my printer's going to go off too. All right, here we go. Let's get this fixed. First off, I want to turn on my earbuds today because I want to make sure this music does not overpower anything. Because when you were dealing with live, we have to worry about the. Hang on a second. The copyrights and all that. So we've learned if you put a little music behind it, you don't usually have a problem with that. But anyway, here we go. Let me go find my little thing. Find it and see if I can get myself straightened out here. I'm never ready. You know how it goes. I actually came in here early. I thought, I'm going to get ready early today. But here it is. It's time to go live. And what am I doing? Over here trying to figure out why. Oh my God. Here we go. It's right here, I believe. Visit your community. Yes, visit my community. Okay, there we go. Now, all right, go over here. Jesus, why can I not get this to come up right? I don't know. Well, I'm going to get this over here because I want to be able to wear my headphones. Oh, here we go. Duh, I think this is what you got to do. Right here. Here we go. Okay, let me delete this over here first, and then we're ready to go. There we go. All right. Now, turn this on so I can listen at the same time. If it will let me, we'll see. All right, here we go. Oh, goodness gracious. I don't know if it will or not, but okay. So anyway, we'll just start talking from here then. When I get ready to play my videos, maybe by then I'll be able to pull it up and let me straighten out my paper. So what I want to talk about today is the terms limited social affect. Now, it is a term used in mental health, right? This is it's like the new term. Like they don't use the old term of sociopath anymore or whatever. They've named it differently now. So let me go pull this up over here because I also need to fix my oh damn it, hold on. My paper is out of order here for something I'm doing. So I'm going to split the screen so I can take care of that. Anyway, just bear with me for just a minute. We'll just wait just a couple of minutes while I get this fixed and we'll just keep on going. It's not a big hairy deal. All right, nope. Make that small. Make it over here. Okay. Where's my damn word? I gotta put these papers in order. Okay, so it goes like this. Let's see. Okay, my paper got out of order, so I got to fix it for my little notes and stuff that I have. Okay, I got to figure it out though. Okay, why isn't it like that? I don't know. I don't know why it's like that, but here we go. We'll just fix it while I'm talking to you. Okay, there's section 1. Blah, 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 blah. Section 2. I got to go over here and find section 3 right quick. What I started doing was like when I want to talk about something, I'll just go out to this. I found a site where you can actually put in some of your ideas about what you want to talk about, and then it'll help you write a little script for it, which I think is great, considering we're not all writers, but we do all want to put on a good show, right? So I thought to myself, I can use this, and but when I put it in to be printed, of course, it sheets out of the printer all in the wrong order, and I forgot to put page numbers on the bottom of it because because I just didn't think about it. But anyway, I put this over here. I think this goes like this. All right. That's the last page. I think it goes like this. Anyway. So, hang on just a second about it. I know we're all watching some of the same cases. I know we are. It's just so sad. It really is, some of them. I'm just like Jack and Lily, please, what happened to those babies? I don't understand. It makes no sense, really. Why aren't they here? Why can't anybody find them? What really happened over there? I watched a phone call I watched something last night about Sebastian that I had never seen the phone call before. It's kind of interesting. I enjoyed listening to the Hatfield and McCoy group. If you have not seen that, please go watch it. It's pretty good. I'm feeling nervous right now. Y'all just chill with me for just a second. You know, when I'm not prepared, it makes me extremely nervous. And then anyway, it's just the good old, you know, attention deficit thing. You know how that goes. Anyway, where can I find my little, oh boy, it's not over there. Okay, anyway, so I'm going to pull this back up the right way, get it fixed. Okay, and then that goes to B. And then we're going to go to part C. Okay, and then it goes to 4. Okay, here we go. Oh my goodness, second. I think because it has all different sections about how to have people like this in your life, and you know how to live with it or whatever. But anyway, I just need to get this in order. This is not the right order. Dang it. Okay, that's okay. All right. I might just restart this so I can get it in the right order, but I don't know. Let's see, but there's the idea, but see, I don't think that goes there. I think this is where it's kind of messed up. All right, and come over here. All right, I am going to just hold on for just a second. I'm going to, hold on. I need to fix this now. I know how to fix it. Okay, hang on a minute. I'll put this on, hold on just a minute. Split the screen for a second. Let me go back over here and fix this, and then we'll be ready to move on. It's okay. You know, I don't mind. Let me put this on the other screen, make it smaller. Yeah. Here we go. This is the split screen part. Put you back over here with, okay. All right, here we go. You're still here. I can still hear your buddy. Okay, hang on just a second, guys. I know this is kind of silly, but I can't really, I don't know why I can't. Okay. No, I'm not going to do that either. Just a minute. Oh my God, I can't stand not being prepared. I really can't stand it. I know I have this all in order. I don't know why it's not coming up yet. It's really irritating. But let me go over here and do it right here. Here's my, I forgot I had it right here. Duh, silly me. Oh my goodness. All right, let's see. This is something that I came up with. Optimizing. All right, here we go. Come on now. It's over here. Those are my ideas. Okay. Oh boy. Let's see. Why can't I see this right now? My goodness. Okay, here we go. It's right here. Silly. Sometimes I don't know what the hell, you know. I don't know what the hell sometimes. I just don't know. I think it's right here. Oh boy. No, doesn't. Oh my God. Okay. It has to make sense or else I can't do this. But anyway. All right. So I'm going to just fix this for a minute. I know we'll figure it out. Okay. I might just turn this off and come back. I really haven't decided yet. I want to find my word over on this side and be able to fix this because that's what the problem is right here. Because it just shot out wrong from my computer. So here we go. There's my Microsoft Word. Let's open it. Open it. There we go. Let's sign in. Oh, lordy. Okay. There's me. Okay. I just opened it. No, I opened this yesterday. All right, let's see what it has over here for what I've gotten. Where is it? Document. Okay, see, that's not even the right one. Oh, I don't think it's the right one. Duh, silly. Okay, so I ended up with 2 different subscriptions on this, and I don't know how, but anyway, let me come back over here. I don't, that's not right. I'm going to move this over here. Y'all just bear with me for just a second. I see y'all over there. Just hang on. I don't know why this is like this. Oh, come on. No, cancel. Don't cancel that one, stupid. Sometimes I just can't with myself, you know. I just can't. Just do that right there. Okay, there I am. Anyway, so here I am. So anyway, we're going to talk about that today. And let me see if I can. That's part C. Okay. Our brains haven't what? Our brains haven't. Our brain fixed right over there. Haven't. Well, here we go. But our brains haven't. Okay. ever see blah, blah, blah. And then it goes like this. It goes, but our brains haven't. Now, that's not the end of the sentence. I hope it's not missing a page, because it seems like it is, but I'm not sure. Because that does not go there. But anyway, we'll just talk for a second while I do this. I would not be a very good teacher, I can tell you that. Would not be a very good teacher. Okay, I don't know what page this goes with. It's really irritating the crap out of me. So this goes over here. Okay. Oh, here we go. It goes like this. But our brain, here we go. I think I got it. Okay, there we go. Now we're back in order. Jesus Christ. All right, now. So we're going to talk about limited social affect. Now, it is a mental health term. Okay. So I'm just going to begin with reading from my little script that I made up for this. So anyway, it says, you move through the world believing you're the captain of your own ship, that you're in control, that your emotions you feel, the anger and the injustice, the joy and the shared laughs, that weirdly are specific sadness that can hit on Sunday afternoons, all of it coming from inside of you, right? We think these feelings are authentic, personal, and above all ours. But what's not the whole story? What if the fundamental belief that the ideas that you're sole author of your emotional life is the most dangerous understanding you have about yourself? Okay, I'm going to put this in different. I don't like these glasses. They are not like I can't anyway. This isn't some conspiracy theory. This is about the core mechanism of human psychology. It's a force that connects us, but also leaves us wide open to being controlled. It operates in plain sight every single day, in your office, among your friends, and most powerfully, through the glowing screen in your hand. Understanding this force isn't just a fun intellectual exercise. It's an act of self-defense in a world that's gotten terrifyingly good at turning your own feelings against you, okay? Now, let me turn this on over here because I want to use my earbud to make sure that when I turn on my little music, because I am going to show videos today, that it's not too loud and we don't mess something up. So that's always a problem. My little friend always comes on, your music's too loud, I can't hear. I was like, I'm sorry. You know, guilty of crime comes on here and tells you that because I made that. I'm not wearing my earbud, so I did not notice it until she told me herself. So anyway, let's go over here to this. And I just want to pull it up. Let's see if it'll go to the live, silly. Let's see if it's going to let me pull this up. Videos. I don't know why I can't play it over here. That's silly. Okay, well. All right, I guess we have to do it. I don't know why I can't play it over here. But anyway, so I'm just going to move on. I don't know what to mess with that. But anyway, so, you know, what if I told you that the rage you felt scrolling your news feed this morning wasn't entirely yours? Okay. We like to think our feelings are private, but the truth is the way more disturbing. The emotions you feel are often just a reflection of the groups you're in, a kind of social echo that can be amplified, twisted, and used to manipulate you, right? Okay. This is the reality of social affect. I'm so glad I wrote this all. I got this little script together because it just makes it easier to talk about instead of just trying to do it off your top of your head because you just can't always just do that. Some things you need to have a script about, right? Anyway, it's the invisible current of feelings that passes between us. It's all the time. And and it talks about in a video, we're going to pull back the curtain on these invisible architectures. And so this video, I'm going to show a video and it's going to show you kind of like how this works within ourselves, right? So we're going to go on this journey from the neurons in your brain, the dynamics and the entire society to reveal how this natural human trait became the most powerful weapon of the 21st century. All right. Now let me go find my first video that I want to play. I got to get the credits to the right person. But this is where it kind of becomes a problem. I don't want the music to be too loud, but I know I have to put something behind it so we don't get in trouble with our, here we go. We don't want to get pegged for, why is that like that? Come on. I'm sorry, guys. I'm just having all kinds of hell today, huh? Why is it not? Oh, come on, go down. Uh-oh. No. Oh, on. Oh, here we go. Okay, now this will work. Come over here. Anyway, I don't want to get in trouble and get a copyright hit and all that. So here we go. I'm going to play this, but super low. Okay, let me get this super low. I think that's low enough to work. Yeah. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and first. I'm going to play this video. Second, let me present it. I'll share screen. All right. All right. Now let me know if the music's too loud, if it affects being able to hear. Okay, so this is going to be courtesy of, what's this person's name? Justin Murphy, okay? Credit to Justin Murphy, full credit for this one. So here we go.
Today, I mean, if you look at kind of the dominant mainstream academic research on the media today, in kind of, the prestigious academic journals, I would say to this day the conventional wisdom is in scientific circles is that media actually has extremely limited effects. So the puzzle for us is how do we go from a world in which the early 20th century there are all these ideas, people like Edward Bernays, right, that we've talked about, and these cybernetic ideas about media affecting society at large in this kind of systematic way. How do we go from that cluster of ideas that's very kind of influential with the rise of mass media in the early 20th century to this kind of contemporary consensus or conventional wisdom in the academic literature, which suggests that actually media has quite modest and limited effects? So that's both a kind of, that's a question that is interesting, both in terms of trying to get to the truth of the matter of what media's effects actually are. So in that substantive way, this is an interesting kind of change in kind of the evolution of our way of thinking about media. But it's also in its own right kind of fascinating as a historical change, because perhaps, this is kind of what I think, and I think you'll see why as we go through this. It could very well be one. It's kind of complex, but it's quite plausible.
Take that one off because that is not really the one I want to play first. Sorry, guys. I didn't want to play that one first. That's not the one I was really wanting to play first. But that this particular thing has something to do with it. Oh, hang on a second. All right, I got to go find this other video. Jesus Christ. See, what I do is I put this stuff all in this like a little playlist so I can just come back over here and play it. But the problem happens, they're not actually in the order that you want to play them in, so you don't. Anyway, let me go grab this right here. Hang on a second. See, I just feel so like not prepared, even though I kind of am. Kind of. Anyway, so let's go over here and find this. Okay. Oh boy. Here we go. Anyway, I think it's going to rain here in Texas today. We need some rain. We certainly do. That's not what I want to know about. It's actually over here. There we go. Where did that go? It thinks I'm talking about social media, but I'm not. I'm talking about, well, here, we'll just have to watch this other one then. We're talking about, actually, this term is actually for sociopath type term, so. Okay, here we go. I'm trying to find this one that I found yesterday. Oh, here she is. Here we go. Now I'm going to put this big. Right. Here we go. Oh. Now, figure out who this one is. And this is full credit to Insider. And again, we're using this under fair use. Here we go. Let me add my screen, add her to the stage. And there you go. Oh, I wish she was not like that.
My name is Patrick Agney. I have a doctorate in clinical psychology, and I am a diagnosed sociopath. This is everything I'm authorized to tell you.
There we go.
People like to believe that sociopaths are one-dimensional serial killers because, in a way, if every sociopath looks like that, then sociopaths would be easy to spot. You won't have to worry whether you're married to one or living next door to one or having birthed one. When the truth is, most sociopaths resemble normal people. It's a really complex and layered question because the term sociopath is no longer used clinically. But if you're looking at it through that lens, that the classic sociopath is someone who struggles to understand the learned social emotions. So everyone has like a sort of hardwired set of emotions. These are the inherent emotions: happiness, sadness, etc. But there is another set of emotions that are learned. These are things like empathy, compassion, shame, remorse. We are taught these things mostly through modeling by caregivers. Sociopaths struggle to learn those emotions. There's been a lot of talk about the sociopathic mask and how sociopaths mask in order to charm and commit harm, when in reality, we mask for the same reasons that everyone else masks. It's easier to get through life if you are acting like everyone else does. I am masking right now. If I wasn't, I would have a much flatter affect. I wouldn't be as friendly perceiving, which isn't to say that I would be mean or that I would want to harm you or anyone in this studio, but I would probably be blinking less. I wouldn't be as engaging. But again, I think this is very relatable. I was very problematic for teachers in elementary school in particular, because whereas at home, I worked pretty hard to fly under the radar and not cause any problems, I didn't do that so much at school. I got in trouble a lot. As a child, I felt this emotional claustrophobia. And the only way that I was able to neutralize that claustrophobia was to act out in a way that was destructive. I don't know why. I just knew, do this and you'll feel better. When I was in elementary school in San Francisco, there was a little girl that I was friends with.
This is very
and
sad.
I remember the day that I attacked this child. I had been feeling tremendous pressure. And on this particular day, I had been engaging in small acts of deviance in order to sort of neutralize the pressure, and it hadn't been working. And there was a child who was standing next to me and provoking me in a way that shouldn't have mattered. And I just remember feeling the impulse to hurt her. And so I grabbed a pencil out of my backpack and I stabbed her with it. And I knew that it was wrong. But again, I understood this intellectually, not emotionally. But what was the most troublesome for me was when I stabbed this child, not only did the pressure I was experiencing at the time go away, but it was replaced by a type of euphoria. It was almost like being high. I did it, and then I walked away and I walked home, and it just felt so good. But it wasn't the harming of another child that felt good. It was the euphoria that it elicited. That sounds crazy in the sense that harming someone else made me feel good. But it wasn't the act of harming another child. It was the act of doing something very destructive. This kid was in the wrong place at the wrong time. I grew up just outside of San Francisco, and my upbringing was really normal, although I hate to use that word.
All right. Now I'm going to come back over here. We're going to talk about, for fair use, we have to stop every once in a while and talk about it or whatever. But she is telling you all about sociopathy. Now, actually, this is not the same thing as what I'm talking about today, but it kind of goes along with it, because we're going to talk about, it's kind of like having some opposites over here, right? So let me keep going over here for a second. Now, the unsetting idea. Okay, your emotions are not your own. Let's talk about that for a minute. All right, let me turn this light on. It's a little dark in here. It's about to rain over here in Leander. And I was just looking out the window like, oh, it's pretty dark. But anyway, I need to turn the light on so I can see. All right, here we go. Let's just get this out of the way. Your brain is built for emotional sharing, okay? This isn't a bug. It's a feature. It's the feature that allows us to build civilizations and cooperate on a scale that's unheard of in the animal kingdoms. The animals just can't logically think like we do. In psychology, the word affect is the technical term for the feelings and emotions that color our lives. Right? It's what lets you feel joy, fear, anger, disgust. Right? These aren't just random internal states. They're signals that help us navigate the world. They tell us when things are great and when we're in danger. And crucially, they're social. We broadcast our emotions consistently throughout our faces, like our faces show every emotion that we have. Our posture, our tone of voice. The sharing is the bedrock of the human connection, right? So, but this very feature, the one we're talking about now, the one that makes empathy possible, has a dark side. Okay. And we know that the sociopaths over here they don't feel empathy. I mean, the video that we're currently watching, she's talking about those feelings. And when I came across this video, I was kind of happy because I was like, oh, wow, I've never seen anybody explain it the way she's explaining it. And she was diagnosed with it. So, and she went to, she got a degree in this, but I think she's very interesting. And she also has children. So she has a normal life, but she also deals with this problem. So, but this very feature, the one that makes empathy possible, has a dark side. It means your emotional state is permeable, okay? It's constantly being influenced, shaped, and even dictated by the people around you. All right. Just like when you see this in kids too. You'll have a group of kids outside, they'll all be playing, and one gets upset or angry about something. And then the next thing you don't know, they're all upset and angry about the same thing. Because this child is projecting its feelings onto the crowd, and the crowd's accepting it and saying, okay, and they do the same. And they just start doing the same thing, but they don't even know why they're doing it or why they're upset. But anyway, that's just one of the things about it. You felt this. You walk into a room right after an argument. Turn that off. So you walk into a room right after an argument, and you can practically taste the tension in the air. You watch a stand-up comic, and the room is roaring and laughter out of the crowd. It just makes the jokes land harder, making you laugh more easily. You see a friend in pain, and a shadow of their sadness falls over you. So see your friend's in pain, then you want to be there for them, and then you start feeling their pain. Your projection of their pain is on you, but you're wanting to make them feel better. That's human. We just want to make people feel better about themselves, right? This phenomenon is also called emotional contagion, and it is like a contagious. It is contagious. We are contagious to each other emotionally, okay? We've known about it for centuries. Someone who brings the mood down is a killjoy, right? While their opposite is a ray of sunshine. Aren't they though? This isn't magic. It's biology. It's a process so fundamental, we're often completely unaware of it. We absorb the feelings of others, syncing up our moods without a single word being spoken. That happens a lot. This is the invisible glue that holds families, teams, and communities together. When a group shares a positive feeling, collaboration and creativity soar. But when the shared emotion is negative, fear, anger, and resentment, this exact same mechanism can lead to groupthink, polarization, and the mob rule. Yeah, we know what the mob rule is. We see that in children a lot, the mob rule, right? The disturbing truth is that the line between a feeling that is authentically yours and one you've caught from the group is almost impossible to see. That jolt of outrage you feel reading on a political headline, is it really your outrage, or is it an echo of the collective anger of your online tribe? That pang of inadequacy you feel seeing a friend's perfect vacation photos, is that a genuine reflection of your life? Or is it the product of an environment carefully designed to make you feel that way? We've all been kind of like that before. You're seeing these beautiful things, and I'll tell you something. I'll do a little story about that for you. One time I did a live, and I invited somebody to come up and talk. And I'm never going to name names. I would never do that. And I thought it went really well. But when it was over with, I felt really bad when it was over with, because when the person contacted me, they were like, I don't really feel that good about that live. There's just things about it that made her feel uncomfortable. And one of the statements I kind of remember hearing was, it's as if you found your prince and I didn't. Okay, so then I felt that. That made me feel bad because I was like, oh, because I was hurting for her, right? I took the live down and I will never put it back up, and it doesn't even matter who it was. But that's just the kind of thing that happens because we are human. Now, we know that the sociopath cannot have those feelings at all. They do not feel for other people. They have no empathy. They have no sympathy. It's all about themselves. They cannot, their mind will not let them feel for other people. They just don't, right? Okay. Now, I'll go back about this. This is the core of social affect. Our inner worlds aren't isolated fortresses. They're open ecosystems, constantly interacting with the social weather around us. Our feelings, which we think of as the essence of our individual selves, are in many ways a collective experience. And because they're collective experiences, they can be manipulated on a collective scale easily, right? The same mechanism that lets a baby learn by copying the parent's smile is what allows a demagogue to unite a crowd in a shared fury. The same system that creates sympathetic bonds between friends is now being targeted by algorithms designed not to connect us, but to control us by keeping us hooked on emotional highs and lows. Makes sense. So before we can build a defense against this kind of thing, we have to understand the machinery of it. We need to look under the hood per se. Okay, so let me go out there and I'm going to go play this other video. And the first section is like the evidence and the agitation of this particular, the limited social affect here. Okay, so the first part is called the micro level. Your brain on other people, like your brain on other people's feelings. How we feel about other people's feelings is what it's talking about. So let me go back over here and turn this one off, and we'll just get this other one pulled up. Bear with me for just a second. Oh, here we go. We come over here. I'm going to go off of this one. Boop. Go back. Now I need to find this. Okay. Now, I have to look at it this way. One second. All right. Okay. So I'm going to show you this one, and it's going to be, we make this larger, and this is going to be full credit to philosophy.
Someone pointed out a mistake you made, or perhaps you have experienced a warm glow of pride when a friend succeeded.
We're using this
These feelings are part of what we call social emotions.
Thank you for philosophy.
So, what exactly are social emotions? And how do they fit into the bigger picture of our minds and relationships? Social emotions are those feelings that inherently involve other people. They depend on our awareness of others' thoughts, feelings, or actions. And like basic emotions, which can occur in isolation, social emotions requiring a social context. They are tied to our relationships, social status, and how we think others perceive us. Examples of social emotions include shame, embarrassment, jealousy, pride, gratitude, contempt, and guilt. From a philosophical standpoint, social emotions help us navigate our interactions with others. They regulate our relationships and reflected our social affiliations. For instance, when we feel gratitude, it often arises from recognizing the support we received from someone else. On the other hand, jealousy may occur when we perceive a threat to our valued social bonds. Philosophically, social emotions are seen as an additional layer on top of basic emotional states. They are not just feelings but involve a form of social cognition. This means we assess how we relate to others and how they relate to us. For example, embarrassment often comes from anticipating negative judgment from others, while pride is linked to receiving approval or admiration. Some theories suggest that emotions, including social emotions, can be viewed as transitory social roles. This idea means that emotions are not just internal states but are shaped by social norms and cultural expectations. Therefore, social emotions are partly learned and regulated by the society we live in. In essence, social emotions are fundamentally linked to our social contexts and relationships. They involve an awareness of others' perspectives and social norms, guiding how we navigate our social world. This understanding connects to broader philosophical discussions about the mind-body problem and the nature of emotion. It highlights how emotions are not purely internal experiences but are intertwined with our social reality and interpersonal dynamics.
Okay, there you go. Let me go back over here now. Okay, we'll remove that one. All right, so emotions, boy, emotions, they get the best of us, don't they? All right, so next thing we're going to talk about is, your brain on other people's feelings, okay? Hang on a second. Oops. Okay. I think this has to be in the right order. I hope so. I think it goes right here. It's this, you ever see someone, you go, oh no, that's not, hang on a second. Let's touch that. How it talks about you're kind of like stuck in this algorithm, just like we get stuck in the algorithm on YouTube. So if you're in a group and everybody's down, and then you start becoming down just like they are down. So the hell, this one goes over here with that one. Okay, so anyway, let me go ahead and play this other video for you guys. It's just because this is all about limited social affect. It's about really how you what's the best way to put this, because this is let me figure out the best way. Let me hold on just a second. I gotta go get this other video. I don't know why. I wish I would have loaded this up right, but I never do. Hang on a second here. All right, here you go. Oops, I hear my dogs down there messing around with what they're doing. Okay. Here we go. All right, now this is going to be full credit to, here we go. Just think, full credit.
Happiness or fear. Those strong feelings we experience throughout life. Our emotions are the driving force behind many of our behaviors, helpful and unhelpful. Just where do our emotions come from? Our brain is wired to look for threats or rewards. If one is detected, the feeling region of the brain alerts us through the release of chemical messages. Emotions are the effect of these chemical messages traveling from our brain through the body. When our brain detects a potential threat, our brain releases the stress hormones adrenaline and cortisol, which prepare us for a fight or flight response. When we detect or experience something rewarding, such as someone doing something nice for you, our brain releases dopamine, oxytocin, or serotonin. These are the chemicals that make us feel good and motivate us to continue on the task or behavior. In these instances, the feeling region of the brain kicks in before the thinking part. Sometimes the reactions of the feeling brain are so strong that it dominates our behaviors, and we're unable to think rationally in the moment. Our emotions hijack our brain. While many of our emotional responses happen subconsciously, our thinking can influence our emotions, and sometimes this can be unhelpful. Just thinking about something threatening can trigger an emotional response. This is where we can manage our emotions with conscious thinking. Our emotions play a powerful role in the way we experience the world. Understanding and regulating our emotions through our thoughts and behaviors can help us take greater control of our brain and achieve our goals.
I can't find this over here. Really irritating. All right. So that's that. That's about our. Okay, hang on a second. Let's take this one down. All right. Here we go. Take this one down and go back over here and find my other one. Okay. A lot of a lot of the things about, let me get myself back on screen here. Sorry. I'm just about to just take this all down and just redo it because I'm not comfortable with it. And this thing is kind of out of order. And like when you're, when you have a little bit of the, I don't know, it's kind of bothering me a little bit. Okay, there we go. Let me put this back in the right order for just a second. I thought I had it in the right order, but something is just not right. Okay, because that is about something else. I don't know why I didn't put page numbers on it. What an idiot, right? Right. Okay. All right. I don't want to skip the page, but I might have to. Let me see for just a second. Okay, section 2. Okay, I'm doing my section 3 start up there. Okay, all right, very good. Let's see. Okay, here we go. I don't think that's the right one. It just can't be because it seems stupid. I don't know. Okay, all right. Okay, let me go with this. The exact playbook. This is talking about politics, but I really don't want to talk about politics. I don't really think politics belong in this, but part of it is because it talks about, politics being a very powerful emotional manipulation. Because just like whenever Trump was running against Biden or whatever, people would get all upset over these people because they didn't like them or they don't like them. And if you say something, like if you were this person's supporter, and people would get upset with you, and if somebody did not like that, I just don't like talking about politics. It becomes a big ordeal. So I'm gonna skip that part of this because I did not realize it was in here until just now. Hey, wait, what? Good to see you. Hello. So, but I'll just say this: political rallies are giant laboratories of social affect. Hey, Cinderella, good to see you. The music, the chanting, the shared symbols, it's all designed to create a state of collective effort where the individual gets swept up in the feelings of the crowd. Critical thinking gets shut down in favor of intoxicating feelings of belonging. Exactly. That is exactly what happens, right? And that brings us to the most powerful engine of emotional manipulation, which is social media algorithms. Now, this is a huge problem. A lot of us watch true crime. Good to see you guys. So glad you came in. A lot of us do true crime, and we're really interested in these things. But what happens is we get stuck in the algorithm. Whether you do true crime or not, if you're over there watching true crime or watching your friends that have channels, your channel gets stuck into the algorithm as well. Okay? And it's really hard to get out of that YouTube algorithm. Well, the same thing happens within our mind. So, here we go. So, platforms like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and X are not neutral. They are attention economies, exactly. Their business model is to keep us scrolling for as long as possible so they can sell your eyeballs to advertisers. And the best way to keep you hooked? By yanking your emotional chain. And that's exactly right. We are all emotionally invested in certain things. And so we spend a lot of time on those things. I know for myself, the first thing I do when I get up in the morning is look and see, have they found our friend Sebastian Rogers? If anything come new of Sebastian Rogers, that's the first thing I look at. And I know people are like, well, that's even before I make my coffee. I go there and I look to see if they found that baby. And then the next thing I look at is the other missing children that come after that. Because I want to know, we all want to know first what happened to them, but we all want to know or make sure that somebody is being held accountable, right? Okay, so this is a little, okay, the algorithm has one mission: maximize engagement, and it has learned that nothing is more engaging than a strong emotional reaction: anger, outrage, envy, fear. That's the currency. That's right. That is the currency of YouTube and these other sites. The algorithm watches everything you do, everything like share, comment, even how long you pause on a post, or to build a psychological profile of you. It absolutely does. Because when you turn on YouTube, and let's say you don't go to your normal channel, you just go out and you just go to browse or whatever. It automatically, because it knows your habits, takes you to places like that, right? Same here. I know you do, Cinderella. I mean, I think most of us are really, really invested in the same cases because we care about the children. And it's so unfair. It's so unfair. But anyway, let me get back on my topic over here. It's just like when I get in my car. If I get in my car on a Friday afternoon to whatever, you know what? The first thing that happens is it pops up this directions on how to get to this little tiny little Mexican restaurant that we always go to every Friday night. Every Friday night we have date night. We go to the little family restaurant right around the corner from us, and that they know what our drink order is and all that. And they just go ahead and bring it to the table. So your car even knows where you go and what you're watching. It's like all the skies and eyes in the skies know you, and they're taking you wherever you normally go. You don't even have to look anymore. It's kind of, I think it's uncomfortable, but we know that that's what's happening to us, right? So anyway, it just it learns exactly what pushes your buttons. It sure does. If it learns that posts about a certain political issue make you angry and cause you to comment, it will show you more of those. That's why you see more true crimes if you watch true crime, all right? It doesn't care if the posts are true or if they're wrecking your mental health. It just cares that you reacted to it. This creates a vicious feedback loop, keeping you in a state of constant, low-grade agitation. And that's absolutely true. You know, sometimes it'll say, oh, you know, people say, you need to get off of that for a while. It just makes you so angry. And it does. It really does. You know, this isn't a flaw in the system. It's the system's working perfectly. That's what they want from you, right? They want to keep you there. It's hard to walk away from YouTube. I mean, we go on vacation or whatever. It's hard for me to not get on and look. Yeah, wait, what says same, but trying to break away, but not break up. But I have felt broken. Yes, a broken heart of so many unanswered questions I know. I agree with that. Wait, what? It's like you want to walk away, but you know, if you do, you might miss something that's very important. Because again, the first thing we think about is where are those babies, and that's the first thing we look for every day. So it's just so hard not to look, right? Worse than that, these algorithms trap you into an echo chamber. You're mostly shown content that confirms what you already believe, reinforcing your in-group identity and making you more suspicious of the out-groups. It's the Asch experiment on a global scale. It creates the illusion of unanimous consensus inside your digital tribe, making you psychologically terrifying to dissent. Yes, we are terrified not to come back and watch. What if we miss it? You know, what if he's found and we didn't know it? What if all of a sudden somebody got arrested and we didn't know it? We would, you know, that it will drive us. It drives us. It makes us. You know, we just feel like we have to know first. Although we're never going to know first. We know that, but it's that feeling of it's anxiety. It gives you anxiety. I know it does me. I'm getting anxiety right now. I don't know why. It just does. This is the disturbing truth. Your brain's natural wiring for empathy and your deep need to belong are being systematically hacked. Now remember, I was talking about this a while ago, and that's why I showed a little bit of the sociopath, a little bit of her video, because she can't feel any of that. You got to remember, she can't feel any of that, right? All right. So, your brain's advertisers do it to sell you things. Politicians do it to get your vote, right? Social media companies do it to sell your attention. They're hey, couponing, good to see you there. I guess it should have came on at 2:00 instead of 1:30, but I don't know. I just thought, well, let me try 1:30 because I know there's so many other things going on, and I didn't want to cause people have to make a choice. You know what they watch. Anyway. Hey, Lady Freedom, good to see you. Thanks for stopping over and saying hello. Good to see you there. So what happens is the social media companies do this to sell your attention. The result is more anxious, depressed, and polarized society, where we're being trained to feel, not to think. Exactly, trained to feel. Okay, that's exactly right. You know, but recognizing this is the first step, and it's not hopeless. Like, we can correct this. All right. So, the antidote and the empowerment on how to correct this. All right. Living in the world of a weaponized affect, they feel like you're just a puppet on an invisible string. But that's a story that only helps the manipulators. The truth is, you're not powerless. The best defense against this kind of manipulation is awareness. Most of us aren't even aware, actually, we don't realize how much time we spend on this. We don't realize a lot of things about what we're doing within social media because we don't think we need to, right? We think that we're in control, but we're really not in control. It's controlling us. Oh God, this is kind of a little bit hard to talk about, but anyway. So once you can see the strings, you can choose not to dance. In other words, once you realize how much time, like there's timers on YouTube, there's timers on TikTok. It tells you how many hours you spent on those sites for a week, in a week's time. You'd be shocked how many hours it is. Even your phone will tell you how many hours you have spent watching whatever, and you'd be shocked how many hours it really is. I never realized how much it was, and it's a lot. My husband says, you can't even put that down to talk to me at dinner. So now what I do is I don't even take the phone with me. I just leave it at the house because I know that I'm not able to just put it down and not look at it if it's in my purse. It's just because we want to know, it just has that hold on us, right? So here's we go. It's reclaiming your emotional autonomy isn't about becoming a robot or building a wall around your heart. It's about becoming a skilled gatekeeper, of your own mind. This is an ongoing practice and kind of a mental hygiene for the 21st century. Now, this says, here's your toolkit. Okay, so this is going to give us a toolkit on it. Now, where I got this from, and I don't know if you weren't here in the beginning, like I started using this site where I could think about things I wanted to talk about and then give a few keywords about what direction or tone I wanted it to be. And I put it in there and it helps me write the script. So I found that if I just print out my script and go with that, it's easier for me to kind of stay on topic, even though I kind of bounce around a lot. Y'all know that, but you know how I am. Anyway, so where were we? Okay, let's see. The most powerful thing you can do is pause. The practices of mindfulness is simply paying attention to the present moment without the judgment. All right. Now, for the first few hours, see, this is where it kind of gets weird here. Let's see. Oh, here we go. Okay. Hang on a second. I was going to play this other video. Let me go get this other video for you guys. It's about how social media traps us, because it does trap us into this feeling that, so when we go over to different sites and, we become members or subscribe to our friends' channels or channels that we enjoy watching, and we get into chat, we're chatting, we do feel like we're part of the group. We do miss if we don't come on, we do feel like we've missed our friends because we feel like these people in this chat are friends. I mean, we may not know each other personally, but you kind of know, we all kind of have the same mindset about our feelings toward these children and what's happened to them. So let me go get this other video for you guys. Hang on just a second. Hang on, guys. Oh, my. Oh, boy. Here we go. Oh, wait a minute. Here we go. Let's look at the negative effects. Hang on just a second, guys. I had this kind of saved, but it's I can't, Anyway. Here we go. I mean, it's really getting dark out there. Wait a minute. Oh, no, it's raining right now. It is raining right now. How about that? Okay. Let's come on down here and get this over here. Here we go. We start her right here.
Teenagers are using social media in a plethora of really positive ways. There are groups, there are clubs out there to address anything that a teen has interest with. I see a lot of kids facing challenges with depression, anxiety, and they're able to connect. I think it's incredibly important that we're using social media appropriately. We're seeing teens architect their Instagram photos using filters to create images that are not aligned with who they really are, but they're generating likes. It's a social currency and it's addictive.
Sometimes teens make bad decisions and they can post things on social media that they don't realize that exists forever. As adults, employers look at social media and what are you posting on there. Kids aren't thinking about those kinds of things.
So we do want to supervise our child's social media usage, simply asking them what their social media represents, the values that they want represented, and to ask them about the content that they post. Why is it important? What's interesting about it? Coming from a place of genuine, authentic interest, right? Not concern, just interest. We start that conversation, we keep it open-ended, we keep it consistent, we check in often, and we invite that conversation.
All right, we turn that off now. All right. I mean, it's not just teenagers. I mean, it's adults too. We all kind of have that same issue, But anyway, I'm having a hard time keeping it together, guys. I'm so sorry. Like when you feel strong emotions coming on, especially when you're online, do you just stop or do you just keep on? You just take a breath. It's like this is how to deal with the being manipulated by social media, because that's what it is. We're being manipulated by the social media. So it says, just stop and take a breath. Ask yourself, what is it? Are you getting angry? Is it giving you anxiety? Is it giving you envy? What is going on with your brain when you're watching this? The simple act, what psychologists call naming it to tame it. All right. This is just ideas on how to stop. It's incredibly powerful. It creates a tiny gap between the trigger and your response, because we do get triggered by these stories on YouTube. We get triggered a lot. I mean, I can be watching and hearing and I get upset. My husband goes, "What are you doing?" Because he'll be watching TV. I've got my earbud on and I'm over there getting upset about what I'm watching or hearing from YouTube. I do spend a lot of time on YouTube, and it is frustrating to my husband. He goes, "Why don't you want to talk to me?" I said, "It's not about that. It's because I want to know. I need the answers. And that's what keeps me trapped over here." But anyway, so this is the gap between where your freedom lives. Neuroscientists have even shown that labeling the emotion can calm down the brain's alarm center. I never say this right, guys. The amygdala, and fire up your prefrontal cortex. That part that handles the rational thoughts. You're literally shifting your brain from a reactive mode to thinking mode. Start doing this all day long. Headlines make your blood boil. Yes, they do. Another missing child makes our blood boil. Yes, it does. Not knowing the answer makes our blood boil. Yes, it does. So it's like take a pause. Okay, that's anger. Friends' perfect pose. Friends' perfect pose makes you feel crummy. Yeah, because they're having something perfect and you're not, and you start feeling crummy, right? And then there's the envy. You're not judging the feeling. You're just observing it. Okay. Then the second step, it says this is how to stop letting the social media affect you. Right. So anyway, it's your information diet. It's like talking about, we'll get an information diet. Okay. You wouldn't knowingly eat rotten food. So why would you consume toxic information? Oh, I don't know, because it's out there. And what am I going to watch next? The algorithm keeps taking me back there. Right? You have to become a ruthless curator of your own feeds. The algorithm's goal is engagement, not your well-being, so you have to fight back. All right. Go through your social media and unfollow accounts that consistently make you feel angry. We can't do that, most of us. You know why? Because what's making us angry is the fact that these children, or what's important to us, is not, like, they're not found yet. So that's not really going to work for us, is it? Okay. But this is just a suggestion. Okay. So this isn't about creating a bubble. It's about cutting out sources of deliberate, low-quality emotional junk food. Mute words and topics that triggers you. Okay. You're not required to have an opinion on every single outrage. Are you sure? Because I think we do. I'm just joking, y'all. I'm just joking. Anyway, at the same time, actively follow accounts that educate, inspire, or make you laugh. Well, we'd love to. Okay, but not every channel. I mean, not everything can be. We can't just have fun every single day. Think about it. We have to see the serious things too. Retrain your algorithm. It will fight you first, trying to drag you back into the mud. But if you consistently reward the thoughtful content with your attention, it will eventually adapt. So I guess if you keep changing it away from these negative things, you'll get out of the algorithm, but that's not really true. And I'll tell you why. See, when you have something helping you write the script versus the real world, it's two different things. And that's hard, that's hard to put into this because you can't just, that's not the way YouTube works. YouTube, the algorithm is designed, okay, just like we talked about a while ago, to keep you in that. You can't just, because if you stop watching for a week and then you turn it back on, you're going to go right back there. Because, even if you did not go watch a true crime channel for a week, it's still going to take you back there. It's still got you locked into that algorithm, okay? So anyway, where was I? Okay, so so it says, take back control. Just pick one or two reputable sources, check them at a set time once a day, and then log off. That's so hard to do. We can't just log off like that. The goal is to be informed, not inundated. No, we can't just log off like that. If we just wanted to be informed, wouldn't we just? Oh my God, it's really pouring down. Oh, I hope my electricity doesn't go out. Oh my God, no, that'd be so bad. Yes, we get a lot of information all day long, but if we just wanted to get only that little piece of information, we would just look it up on our phone. We wouldn't even go watch, but we want to visit with our friends. We want to see the people in chat. We want to have conversation. And we are having conversation when we're chatting with our friends, So some of this I don't really agree on, but I'm still going to approve it. Now, and then, manipulation. Talk about this for a second. Manipulation, whether they're people or algorithms, love to create a false sense of urgency. Yes, and I know we have that. I know we do. They want you to react right now. Your best weapon is to slow things down. Well, gosh, give yourself a gift. It says, take a pause. Let me think about that. Is it a superpower? It breaks the emotional pressure or the moment and lets you consult your own rational mind. You have the right to say no. We do, but we don't want to because we want the information. Okay. So part of this, I don't really like part of this, and I'm fixing to skip a little part of it. Okay. Because I don't really want to, The ultimate antidote to digital manipulation is a strong connection to the real physical world and to authentic human relationships. The digital world is an abstraction, a distorted funhouse, a mirror of reality. Right. So it says, make a conscious effort to ground yourself. Spend time in nature. Build something with your hands. These things connect you to the tangible world and act as a powerful counterbalance to the weird, disembodied feelings of being online. It's very comfortable being online, like a lot of us have our own little channels. We have no problem getting up there and talking. So we are comfortable. Some of this is, some of this I don't really agree with. But anyway, so one of the things they talked about a while ago was the ash, what do they call it? Something ash. Anyway, but Ash discovered a weakness in the systems about the algorithms. When he reran he had the experiment where he just did one other, what? Oh, I'm going to skip that part. I don't care about that part. Anyway. Actually, I'm going to stop talking about this altogether because I don't really want to. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and let me show y'all this other video that I found. It's very interesting because we never really hear people talk about this. But this is a person that is she is a diagnosed sociopath, and she's very interesting. She has a family. She's married. Let me go pull this back up because I really wanted to listen to this whole thing. I like her. She's got insight that we would not know. But, just like Stephen Stearns and all the rest of them, that's exactly what they are. You know that, right? Even though some of them aren't diagnosed. They're diagnosed with something else, but we know what they are. So, anyway, let me play her right here. Here we go. Here we go. Let's go back over here. All right, now, let's listen to her.
Grabbed the pencil out of my backpack and I stabbed her with it. And I knew that it was wrong. But again, I understood this intellectually, not emotionally. But what was the most troublesome for me was when I stabbed this child, not only did the pressure I was experiencing at the time go away, but it was replaced by a type of euphoria. It was almost like being high. I did it, and then I walked away and I walked home, and it just felt so good. But it wasn't the harming of another child that felt good. It was the euphoria that it elicited. That sounds crazy in the sense that harming someone else made me feel good, but it wasn't the act of harming another child. It was the act of doing something very destructive. This kid was in the wrong place at the wrong time. I grew up just outside of San Francisco, and my upbringing was really normal, although I hate to use that word. I did, however, grow up during a time where we hardly had words for anxiety and depression, much less sociopathy. My parents did the best they could, but they weren't equipped to deal with a child like me. And I would imagine most parents aren't. And my father was in the music business, so he was very charming and outgoing. My mother was a traditional, perfect homemaker from the South. I would listen to my mother say to my sister, "You want to get good grades. You want to make your teacher happy, right?" And I remember watching my sister, "Oh yes, I definitely. You don't want your teacher to be upset at you." And no, I don't want my teacher to be upset. And I remember listening to this conversation and thinking, I don't really care what my teacher thinks or if she's happy or sad. And I also understood that saying that was not a great idea. That when I was asked, I should just nod and open my eyes really wide like my sister does and say, yes, no, I don't want my teacher to be mad at me. And admitting to that gets me in trouble for no other reason than because it's not how I'm quote unquote supposed to feel. So I learned to lie and manipulate other people's reactions very early, again, not because I was trying to hurt others, but because I was just trying to go unnoticed. Anytime I was honest with someone about the way that I was really feeling, it was always met with judgment and a lot of times anger and frustration. So I learned to lie as a protective mechanism. And over time, that developed into just a maladaptive lifestyle strategy.
Right.
I believe that I am one of those kids with that inherent manipulative temperament, which sort of predisposed me to a higher likelihood of being antisocial, but I can't point to any specific trauma. I do know that having a dad in the music business and watching him sort of navigate and be charming, I think I learned very early that I don't really need emotion. I can just do what he does, which is smile and be affable and you get what you want. But I can't speak to a specific environmental cause. I knew from a very young age that I wanted to live in a nice house and I wanted to have a relationship and I wanted to have a family. But I also understood that the only way for me to get those things would be to interact pro-socially with other people. It is beneficial to me to act pro-socially. So I do. My childhood was spent masking. I was just trying to survive. But over time, it became really exhausting. And what I try to remind people who are resistant to the idea of helping sociopaths, I try to remind them, these people at one point were all children. Wouldn't you want to help a child? And of course, the answer is always yes.
All right. Hang on just a second.
Constructive behavior typically elicits a dopamine release that I don't.
For fair use, we have to stop every once in a while. But, what's interesting about this person is what you listen to her. She is talking about these things that started when she was a child. Now, I want y'all to think back. Remember Letitia Stout? Okay, she took Gannon's little life. She talks about her childhood a little bit too. She also had injured somebody as a child. I mean, most of these people. I mean, Adam Montgomery. I don't know about. Lori Daybell had injured. I mean, their background. They've always, all of them. They have taken these children's lives, were manipulators, and they had started out with their little bad behaviors as a child, and then they, like she's talking about, they just grew into how to seem acceptable. They were manipulating everybody else by trying to look acceptable, like they didn't have a problem. Anyway, so I'll continue this. Let's go. I'm sorry. I just have to stop every once in a while.
So doing something quote unquote kind.
Yeah.
I don't feel that attaboy, that pride. It's more matter of fact.
Mm-hmm.
There was someone in the grocery store who didn't have the money to pay for their groceries. So I paid for the groceries for this person behind me. And then I left the store. I wasn't doing it because I wanted any credit or this is a problem that needs to be solved, so I'm going to solve it for this person. But I don't get that hit of wow, what a good person I am. That was a nice thing to do. But I do get it from something destructive. I get this jolt of feeling that sort of snaps me out of my pressure in much the same way that someone who has obsessive compulsive disorder, they can't tell you why washing their hands 8 times or doing a series of rituals makes them feel less anxiety. It just does. And that was similar to what I was experiencing as a child. When I was a kid,
Cinderella, you
I
got
was
it
at
right.
a sleepover and I decided to walk home in the middle of the night, which I understand is not a typical choice. And on that walk home, there was someone who had left their garage open in my neighborhood. And I went into the garage
It's thundering.
and I actually got in the car that was in the garage.
Oh my God.
And I remember feeling so much peace. It was existing in a world where I knew I wasn't supposed to exist. It really neutralized the pressure that I had been feeling that day. As I got older, breaking into homes was my sort of go-to for neutralizing the pressure that I would feel. And I never took anything. And I never did anything destructive within the home. It didn't matter to me whether it was a huge house, small house, an occupied house. I started to lean more toward houses that weren't occupied for obvious reasons. But I found some regular places that I liked and I felt that I could get in and out of safely. And I would just sit in the silence and I could feel all the pressure going away and all of the apathy flooding in, which is not, I don't believe that's normal. I think that when most neurotypical people find themselves in a house where they're not supposed to be, they're going to be anxious about it. Their heart's going to be racing. It was the exact opposite for me. And what I came to realize is this is how I want to feel. This, I don't care. I don't care. And it's okay. It's okay to feel apathetic. It's okay to just have no emotion, to just sort of float. And what I found was that these regular acts of disciplined deviance helped prevent more spontaneous acts. And that was always a concern for me, particularly after I had stabbed the little girl in my class. If I waited too long, there was a possibility that I might not lose control, but resort to something more extreme. And I never wanted to be at the mercy of these compulsions. So as I got older, I started to engage in them almost like a prescription. I would do it whether I felt like it or not, just to keep the pressure at a manageable space so there wouldn't be any spikes. I did this for years. I mean, I like to joke that some people microdose mushrooms, whereas I like to microdose mischief.
You also stole cars. Was that the same general feeling?
Yes, it was exactly the same. And there was never any damage or there was never any like super destructive driving or anything like that. It was existing someplace I wasn't supposed to exist. And I figured I was dancing a fine line of was it wrong, in the sense that everyone whose cars I took, I engaged with in some way, and they were usually inebriated. So in the back of my head, I felt like for some reason I got pulled over or busted for this. I would have a very logical explanation. I have the guy's keys. He gave them to me. I don't understand what the problem is. Over time, I realized that doing that required a very specific set of circumstances, required interacting with people to get the keys, and it was too much work. I just wanted to be able to get my hit, so to speak, without having to go through, without having to go to a party, without having to time it. It was a lot more work. It wasn't a moral choice. It was a selfish choice. I remember thinking, my luck will run out. If I continue to do this, if I escalate, I will end up in jail, and I don't want to go to jail. There are other things that I want to do.
Okay, hold on a second. All right, we have stuff in my file button. See, isn't that interesting? She's talking about, the high she would get from it, which is, I've heard people talk about things like that before, that when they were in the middle of a crime, how what they got out of it, how they felt about it afterwards, and then they would have to do more, like they'd have to have a bigger crime to get that same feeling that they got before. Just like when they're doing, drugs or whatever, it's that same thing. But this woman, I think she's extremely dangerous, and I don't know how she's married and has kids and all that, but yes, Cinderella. I want to know too, about about the brains from these people that we've all watched do these things, and how I would also like to know more about their childhood, because really a lot of, like, some people say, oh, well, it starts from a childhood trauma, but no, that's not really true. These sociopaths are born this way. It's the other one that they, some kind of trauma causes them to react that way. And then this reaction becomes normal to them. Okay. It's just different. But this lady, she's pretty interesting. She's so matter of fact, you know? All right, let's go back. I'm going to turn it back on. Here we go.
I always felt very much as if I was floating in outer space. It was just this abyss, and I didn't know how far my lack of emotion would take me. And also because I saw sociopathy associated with monsters, there was a long time where I remember thinking, so is this just what happens? Like, I don't feel like a monster, but am I going to wake up one day and suddenly want to kill people? It was scary. I was really relieved when I got the diagnosis, which is not something I think a neurotypical person would experience. But when I've spoken to others like me recently, I found that with them, it was the same. I was relieved to get this diagnosis. I was relieved to see myself in your story, because I've always felt that there was something off, and now I had a name for it. And I also knew that I wasn't alone. There were at least enough people out there like me to justify a psychological disorder. Towards maybe the end of college, I had a conversation with my dad where I came very clean about the way that I was not feeling and the things that I was doing. And it was his suggestion that I see a therapist who did a clinical assessment on me. And then I was given the PCL. And that the score of that PCL is what determined the actual diagnosis. The PCL is the psychopathic checklist revised. It's the gold standard testing for psychopathy. The DSM is the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. It's the psychological Bible, so to speak. It's what clinicians use for most diagnoses, and it's what insurance companies use in terms of coding and how to pay for the treatment. In order to diagnose someone with antisocial personality disorder, you use the DSM. And this is someone whose behavior is the huge driving force. You're going to see a lot of impulse control issues. They don't really respond to punishment or correction at all. It's the same behavior over and over again. In order to diagnose someone as a sociopath or a psychopath, you cannot use the DSM. For that, you have to use the PCL. So although these disorders have a tremendous amount of overlap and are roughly the same, they're different in that they require different measures for diagnosis. If something isn't in the DSM, that means it doesn't exist. When that's not true, there are many disorders that aren't in the DSM because they need a more complex measure to test. I'm pretty sure sex addiction isn't in the DSM. Looking at the behavioral markers for sociopathy and thinking, who says all sociopaths act like this? Who says that you're saying that all sociopaths are irresponsible, all sociopaths demonstrate criminal versatility, all sociopaths are incapable of impulse control? Well, I'm capable of impulse control, and I'm sure that I'm not alone. I'm capable of being responsible. I demonstrate criminal versatility, but you don't know that. I'm telling you that. If you don't have proof of it, how would you know? And so I was coming to it from a space of, we should be talking more about what's going on psychologically, and we should be spending less time talking about behavior, because not every person who has this personality disorder is acting in the exact same way. In order to sit for the PCL, it is a requirement to have a criminal record. And what that says to me is you're making a generalized statement about this group. If you are only testing people who have a criminal record, you're going to miss all of those who are sitting on the mild to moderate side of the spectrum who do not have a.
See, I agree with her right there, because there are a lot of people in this because they wait until they've done some horrific crime. I mean, they noticed something wasn't right, but they weren't sure what it was. Then they've done some horrific crime. They end up in prison or in jail. And before they go to trial, they do all this testing on them. And then that's when it's discovered, oh, wait a minute, this person has a disorder, right? So I'm going to read to y'all what this says this PCL test is. Okay. The Psychopathy Checklist Revised is a tool used to assess psychopathic traits, not sociopath test. It is a structured interview and a review of background information designed to evaluate the individual on 20 items related to psychopathic characteristics. This isn't a specific test for sociopathy, and it's not recognized clinically as a diagnosis in the DSM-5. Okay, she just told us that. But the structure of it involves a semi-structured interview, a review of your background, says that, and your criminal record and your mental health history. Okay. The scoring assigns scores based on those 20 items. Higher scores indicating a greater presence of a psychopathic trait. All right. The cutoff score, a score of 30 or higher out of 40, is often used as the threshold. This is not it says it's not a diagnostic tool for antisocial personality disorders, but it is used in conjunction with other assessments to evaluate the psychopathic trait. Okay, here's the misconception. The term sociopath is often used interchangeably with psychopath, but sociopath is not recognized as a clinical diagnosis. And that's pretty interesting, isn't it? I mean, I wonder at what point did they stop? Did they ever use it as a diagnosis? Because I kind of think for some reason, I think it used to be as a diagnosis. Let me turn it back on. Here we go.
Criminal record, myself included. Now, there is a different version of the PCL called the PCL-SV, which is given to those who do not have criminal records. But the fact that there are two different versions of the same test, I feel is potentially problematic. And if you're only testing within the prison system, for the most part, your results are going to be far more conservative. My therapist's primary goal was getting the behavior under control and figuring out better coping mechanisms to deal with what we ultimately understood was anxiety related to this pressure that I was feeling. So we approached it that way, like, let's treat the anxiety. And that's what she did. And it seemed to be really effective. But for me, understanding the motivation behind my behavior was secondary to stopping the behavior. So at the time that I was in therapy, at first, I was engaging in a lot of destructive behavior, and that needed to stop in order for me to start learning about my motivations and develop new, more positive coping mechanisms, which is what we did, my therapist and me. In my experience, a combination of cognitive behavioral therapy, which is behavioral based, and talk therapy was really effective. But it was sort of trial and error. There was no standard treatment plan. There is still no standard treatment plan, which is wild when you consider that sociopathy affects roughly the same number of people who suffer from depressive and borderline personality and bipolar disorders. I did a lot of cognitive journaling, which is basically you write a thought you're having and then you write a counter thought. So it sort of forces you to take a look at any irrational belief systems you have. And I had an irrational belief system that if I don't act out, my compulsion to act out will grow stronger and it will overpower me. So it was, if I don't act out, I might be overcome by a compulsion to act out very destructively. And the counter thought is, if I don't act out, I might be uncomfortable, but I can process this differently. And that ended up being the more accurate construct like taking place. And once I understood, no, actually, that's not the case, it made me feel better, and it made my destructive urges so much easier to control. It was, okay, so you're normalizing what's going on with me. You're not normalizing the behavior. And that's something I want to be really clear on. At no point do I ever want to romanticize sociopathy or normalize the destructive behavior that so many people with sociopathy engage in. What I do want to normalize is the psychological, the lack of emotional affect. And that felt really good to have somebody say, the way you feel or don't feel is very normal for someone like you.
See, that's interesting, isn't it? Oh.
I don't have that desire to engage in pleasure the way that neurotypical people seem to. So I put it off. And then I put it off, and then I put it off. And then I find that the longer I put it off, the closer I get to getting what I can only imagine is something like a dopamine hit. If I drink a lot of water and I have to go to the bathroom, I will avoid going to the bathroom for as long as possible. I don't know that I would say I enjoy being a pleasure delayer. I can't speak to the specifics of why. And this isn't a choice that I'm making consciously. It's like, I'll do it in a minute. I'll do it in a minute. I'll do it in a minute. And I have done this so many times to the point where I have peed my pants multiple
Yeah.
times because I just don't go to the bathroom when I'm supposed to go to the bathroom like a sane person. So I was at the White House for an event, and
Embarrassing.
my husband and I were, this was White House. It's cool. It's fun. And I was wandering around and I knew I had to go to the bathroom. I was like fidgety. And my husband was like, do you have to go to the bathroom? I was like, no, it's fine. Yes, but it's fine. I'll go in a minute. And
It's really
we kept
nasty out
going. We were wandering. And I was not asking to use the restroom, which is what I should have done. And we finally get to this place in the White House where we're supposed to be. We're gathering for this event. And that's when I realized I have to go to the bathroom right now. As this lovely woman launched into a rendition of the national anthem, I was like, I'm just going to pee my pants at the White House. That's what's going to happen. And I did. And my husband very sweetly recognized what was happening. And he was like, are you pissing your pants at the White House? And I, yes, sure am. He took off his blazer and he wrapped it around my waist so that nobody would see. No, we did not stay much longer after that because I don't know how much experience you have in urinating yourself, but it's one of the most uncomfortable experiences to be just standing in a suit soaked in your own urine. According to the PC,
for very easy, you have to stop every once in a while. We all know that. But anyway, okay, so she's telling this story over here. Now, imagine being her husband. If he knows that she has this problem, and imagine that you pee your pants at the White House because you don't want to stop and go to the restroom. Does that not sound like little children? Like when you're potty training children or whatever, and you're kind of reminding them all the time, hey, let's go try to potty. And they don't want to. They just keep playing. She sounds just like a child doing that. That's part I don't kind of understand, because that's a bodily function. What do you mean you're going to keep putting it off? I mean, I don't know that I can be married to somebody like that, because this just seems so childish, right? It just seems childish. But anyway, here we go.
Which is the gold standard for psychopathic, sociopathic testing. You're looking at someone who has a limited emotional affect. And that's really, really key, because so much of a sociopath is defined by their behavior, the quote unquote bad things they do. But really, I think the focus should be on this limited, low affect. You're going to see a lot of pathological lying, a lot of manipulation, superficial charm, lack of remorse or guilt. Parasitic lifestyle is often something that's associated with sociopathy, irresponsibility, criminal versatility. But these behaviors are problematic because not every sociopath acts that way. Psychopaths are believed to suffer from a biological abnormality that makes it impossible for them to progress through complex emotional development. So they never learn things like shame, guilt, or remorse. They can't course correct. They have trouble with impulse control. That is different from a sociopath who is believed to be capable of experiencing these emotions. They just struggle to do so. There's no real consensus on why. The prevailing theory is that psychopathy is the result of biology, whereas sociopathy is the result of environmental traumas or a temperament that sort of predisposes a child to be sociopathic, but can be sort of coaxed out of it with therapy and different coping mechanisms. This inability to connect with these learned emotions put me in this position where I felt as though I had to fake it. And that contributed to a lot of destructive behavior. It was essentially a maladaptive coping mechanism that developed into a lifestyle. I think that people feel safer believing that sociopaths are one-dimensional, dangerous monsters that you could see coming from miles away.
I don't know if there's any perks to being
Almost without exception, every single person that I have told I am a sociopath, they lean in. They want to be closer to me. They want to know more. They want to hear everything about it. And then they want to start talking about their darkness. Well, I've always wondered if I'm a sociopath because of this, or I want to hear about this person who I think they're interested in it. No one has ever clutched their pearls and run shrieking in the other direction. It's always been the opposite. Everyone has a darkness that they have labeled as bad. But when you get around someone like me, who ostensibly doesn't have any judgment, they see it as an opportunity to unburden themselves. Like, oh, I can talk to this person. They're not going to judge me for these thoughts that I've had or these things that I've done. I find that really delightful and also a little bit sad, in that I want to lean over and say, you don't have to feel bad about all this stuff. You can just drop it. You can just be yourself and it's going to be fine. But 9 times out of 10, they don't feel that they can. They don't feel that they can admit to feeling a certain way or behaving a certain way without a tremendous amount of backlash, either self-inflicted or otherwise. Every single bit of my decision to pursue a doctorate in clinical psychology was motivated by sociopathy. But what I found out was, in order to get your doctorate in psychology, you have to study other personality types too. So, and I wasn't interested at all. I was selfishly motivated. I wanted to help me and maybe others like me. I was able to understand the human condition in a way that I don't think I ever would have been able to otherwise. And it made things very black and white for me. It was, oh, this person acts this way because of this. That type of person acts that way because of that. It helped me understand concepts like guilt and empathy better. I didn't connect to them emotionally, but I could understand them intellectually, especially when I had to start seeing patients, which is not something I wanted to do. And I tried to get out of it in every way possible. But what I found was it was similar to breaking and entering, only I was in people's minds and they were allowing me, obviously. But it was, wow, I don't have to have an emotional reaction to do this work. I don't have to have empathy, which sounds crazy coming from a therapist. But I think it's interesting that people always want to know, does my therapist really like me? Does my therapist hate me? What does my therapist think of me? And my answer is, do you wonder that of your oncologist? Do you wonder that of your primary care physician? Probably not. And I think the same should be said about your therapist. It's not my job to like you. It's not my job to empathize with you. It's my job to help you. It's my job to observe the things you're telling me and help you figure things out. And once I got that, and I realized how unemotional psychology could be, ironically, it really shifted the way that I perceived just humans in general. Something I noticed about people is darkness is extremely relatable, and everyone has an element of sociopathy within them. It's a matter of navigating through the guilt in order to get them to admit it and accept it and be okay with it. And so much of society, I feel, is overly burdened by guilt, having thoughts they quote unquote shouldn't be having feelings they quote unquote shouldn't be having. And I think getting people to be more accepting of their darkness is healthy. And that was something I really tried to do when I was working as a therapist, to get people to stop judging themselves for having negative thoughts or negative feelings. There's perks to being a sociopath, not to glorify the disorder, but the ability to operate outside of emotion, the ability to not be guilted into things, the lack of people pleasing. I think when you're people pleasing, you're operating from a place of need. I need someone else's approval in order to justify this decision or in order to feel good. And I've never benefited from other people's approval, which again is not to say that if I'm doing a job and my supervisor likes what I'm doing, obviously that's a good thing. But I don't make decisions based on a need to be liked. And I don't think that anyone should be making decisions based on a need to be liked. Certainly, I would prefer to be liked. I would prefer to get along with people. But I think when you are making choices because you need someone else's approval, it's potentially problematic for a large host of reasons.
Okay, stop for just a minute. Isn't that interesting? I mean, look at how she looks at life. Not having any empathy toward her patients. I mean, could you imagine that being your therapist? I don't think I would like that, because I would feel like you don't even care about me, but you're going to treat me? How does that work? So does anybody want to take the personality disorder test here? Because we can give it out loud today if you want to, or we can come back and take it another time. Let me see how many minutes it takes. Since it only takes a few minutes, you want to try it or you want to come back to it? We'll come back to it another day, because I do want to take this test. I mean, she's very interesting, but she is so. I think education in school, they should. That's exactly right, Cinderella. I believe that too. They should teach that to teachers. That teachers need to be able to look for these kind of things in children, because like the book that we read, The Psychopath Next Door. 1 in 25 people is going to be, or is a sociopath, or has these behaviors, I guess, because they're saying that's not really a diagnosis, but anyway, we'll go back and watch some more of this. She's very interesting, and she's very to the point.
Most of my friends and family understood. They all knew that I was different. My husband is a perfect example. He lived through most of this with me. And yet it wasn't until it was in a book that he was able to say, oh, I understand this differently. He would take my actions or inactions personally, as if I just loved her more or loved her better, she would feel differently or react differently. And I think now he understands, oh, this actually really has nothing to do with me. And so when I was dating others, I think I would go into different relationships thinking maybe this is going to be the relationship that gets me to the emotional point that I seem to be lacking. And they never did. Now, what I have come to understand is they never would, because it wasn't about the other person. It's what I was working with. But I didn't get that then. I would end up being frustrated and ending up having to mask a lot in relationships, faking emotions that I wasn't having, faking experiences that I wasn't having. And it was very lonely. I think one of the reasons that my relationship with David was so special so quickly was because he was one of the only people that I did reveal myself to when I was a kid. We met in a summer camp just before going into high school. And we dated for that summer. And then we broke up. He went off to college. And we kept in touch and then reconnected in my 20s. I had to do a lot of work. I had to do a lot of figuring things out, and so did he. So when we reconnected, I think that it speaks to his patience that he was able to sort of understand and help me manage a lot of this stuff. But I remember sitting with David, and I really was just extremely candid about I didn't feel things and I didn't experience guilt, and I kept waiting to get the look from David, but I never did. Really, for the first time, I could have some semblance of a normal life if I chose a person like this with whom to spend my life. I would never have to mask. I could just be myself. He didn't like that I had these destructive urges. He didn't like that I was breaking into homes, go figure. And we had to work through it. But he also had to understand that any coping mechanism I came up with, even if it was a positive one, wasn't going to increase my affect. I was never going to be as affectionate as he is. My husband is very affectionate. He's very emotional. So for him, when I wasn't affectionate, when I wasn't emotional, he was taking it personally, as if this was a choice I was making. I'm not being affectionate with you, or I don't have these emotions the way that you have these emotions. But what he needed to understand is my emotional experience is different than yours. My love is different, but that doesn't mean it doesn't count. I'm never going to match your emotional intensity. I just don't have it. It's not because I don't love you. It's because I don't have that intensity that you have. Our journey to becoming the solid couple that we are today was relatable in the sense that we had to do a lot of therapeutic work. And I think that the more people engage in therapy and the more people engage in getting to know themselves, first and foremost, the better partners that they will be for who they choose to spend their life with.
I think that was hard for him.
My kids are younger. The conversation is a bit adult for them. They understand the word sociopath, but I have explained it to them using a more complete definition. Certainly they know about this book. They know about that word. They certainly are going to grow up with a different understanding of the word than their friends. But they see me as someone who is less emotional than daddy. But I've noticed with neurotypical parents is that so much of their reaction to things is sort of built into how they parent. The neurotypical parent suffers from a lot of guilt and a lot of second guessing with parenting, and I don't seem to have that. Which isn't to say that if I make a mistake, I'm not upset about it, but I don't really experience a lot of guilt with my kids, and I don't ever use guilt with my kids. Let's say my oldest comes home, he has a bad grade on the test. His father is going to be frustrated, and how could this have happened? You studied, and doesn't this matter to you? And we have to do better. Whereas I don't have that reaction, but I also know that that allows my child to have their reaction to the test. So, and I find that in parenting, so much of a kid is having to navigate their parents' response to something as opposed to being able to process and deal with their reaction to what happened. So I might say, yeah, this is a bad grade. How do you feel about it? And then we have the conversation about how my child feels about it, as opposed to how I feel. He's not having to deal with my disappointment, which again, it doesn't mean that I don't care about his poor performance. It's just that my feeling about it takes a far backseat to his feeling about it, which I think is better in a way. My son recently wrote a speech on FOMO, fear of missing out, and he wanted me to weigh in on it. And I was able to have that conversation with him, which is, this is actually something mommy has never experienced or doesn't experience, but you do. And it's so interesting that you can process it to the extent that you can write a speech about the fear of missing out, where it comes from, how it impacts your life, and how interesting is it that we can come to this topic from two very different places.
Think about that. Think about being her child, how it must feel. Can't imagine how it must feel to have a parent who seems to not have that same, I'm telling you, it seems like she doesn't have that motherly attachment or whatever, but she also seems like, I just want to call her Gypsy Rose Blanchard or something, but she's super educated, so that's not really the same, but you can see, like, in the traits that she's talking about these things, you can just see those traits in these other people that we've seen do these horrific things, and how they had no care. They showed no remorse, no anything, It's crazy. It is crazy, but it's not, oh God, let me just turn this back on, y'all.
When you're talking about sociopaths in fiction, I think that it can be detrimental in that it perpetuates this very one-dimensional composite. The first thing that people think about, neurotypical people anyway, my understanding is fear and monster, serial killer. These are all largely negative associations, when in fact, sociopathy is just a personality disorder, and it deserves to be understood beyond the sensational one-dimensional characterizations that it's become largely known for. You're showing these people as being singularly bad with no ability to feel, period. And that's not accurate. And when you are someone who sees themselves in a sociopathic checklist, but everywhere you look, the sociopath is portrayed as someone horrible, why on earth would you ever admit to that? It makes it more difficult for people like me to speak up. And even as a child, I understood kids who say they don't feel remorse are blackballed and cast aside and not involved in things that they should be involved in. If people understood that sociopathy is so much more than these extreme characterizations, there would be more compassion and there would be more treatment. Wednesday Addams is sociopathic. She meets most of the criteria. She's criminally versatile. She has trouble making and forming bonds. She has a low affect. She is manipulative. She's cunning. She's extremely charming. And yet I believe that Wednesday Addams offers a much more complete version of the sociopathic profile, because in addition to all of those quote unquote bad things, she's also capable of experiencing grief. She struggles to form bonds, but she can do it. She's very loyal to her friends. She is very loving to her family members. And that piece of the puzzle is largely missing in the overall understanding of sociopathy. You see that she can feel, she feels deeply. She feels differently than a neurotypical person does, but that doesn't mean her feelings don't count. And I found that parents who watch that show with their children who resonate with my story, it opens up a narrative for them that goes beyond that monster stereotype. And it's nice for these kids to see themselves represented by something other than a dangerous criminal. I enjoyed seeing all the Wednesdays knocking on my door for Halloween, and not just in her costume, but they were mimicking her flat affect. They weren't smiling when smiled at. And I thought that was so liberating, not just for me, but for them. I wanted to say, I bet it feels good to, to be bad little Wednesday. You're not doing anything overtly cruel or bad, but you don't have to play by the rules, if only for tonight. Giving these kids the space to say, I actually don't feel much, and that's okay. They're
amazing that she's talking about.
They're allowed to have a different emotional experience than you. And they should be allowed to be honest about their experience. I was able to talk to my kids about that personality through the Wednesday lens. And it could not have come at a better time for me to have that conversation. It's not just Wednesday, though. There are so many characters, fictional characters, that are sociopathic that I think the general public takes for granted. They don't realize that they're rooting for the sociopathic character. Elphaba, I remember reading Wicked, the book, and really resonating with that, with this character who is believed to be bad just because she has a different experience of the world. I actually really appreciated the Dexter character because I saw myself in that strategy. Obviously, I wasn't murdering people, but what he was doing is he was experiencing a need to act out. And he decided to channel that need into essentially being a vigilante that shed more light on a fuller composite. This is someone who is capable of having a relationship. He's capable of love. He loves his sister. He cares for his wife. He cared for his kids, perhaps not in the way a neurotypical person does, but he was capable of leading a high functioning life. So I appreciated that it wasn't a bloodlust story. It wasn't someone that was getting off on hurting people for hurting people's sake. Larry David, I mean, this is a character that everybody loves.
Interesting.
And what does he do? He acts antisocially 90% of the time. He doesn't have much of an affect. He doesn't seem to have a great deal of empathy. And yet we root for him. We love him. I think that as a society, we are far more comfortable rooting for a sociopathic fictional character. But what that tells me is unconsciously, we're ready to root for the non-fiction people too. We just need more information in order to get there. We need to see them as more complete individuals in order to do that.
All right. Sorry, I had to go downstairs.
Roughly 5% of the population are sociopathic. The research indicates that it's right around 4 or 5%. But when you consider that the diagnostics for sociopathy and psychopathy are largely conducted within the prison system, my belief is that that is a very conservative estimate. If there was more testing available for this personality disorder, I would bet that the prevalence would be higher than 4 or 5%. When I've been contacted by parents or others who resonate with my story and they're looking for help, the first thing I say is ask your child or yourself, what does it feel like when you feel? Because that's really the key. You'll find that a lot of these people, they don't connect with these social emotions, and that ends up driving them to act out compulsively. If we're only looking at the behavior, I think a lot of people who are on the mild to moderate side of the sociopathic spectrum will fall through the cracks, because not everybody is acting out really aggressively or extremely. As soon as a child starts acting out antisocially, get them in therapy and ask them, what does it feel like when you feel? Because so much of therapy is dedicated to behavior, which makes.
So you got to wonder about Chad Daybell and Lori Val and all these people, what's wrong with them? Because you know what, when you talk about we've heard people talk about how they were when they were younger and all these other things. So, I mean, they had antisocial personalities. Lori is a perfect example of something that should have been found when she was much younger, but her parents were over there. There's a whole lot about her that is just not talked about, but we need to talk about her on a different day, but she is, anyway, I just had to stop for fair use and talk about it for a minute. I had to go see what my dogs were doing. I heard this loud noise. I went down there and they had their little toys scraping it across that floor. I'm like, please don't scratch my floor. Here we go.
Sense. If you have a child or an adult that's acting out antisocially or destructively, you want to stop that behavior first and foremost. But that's just the beginning. One of the things that I always like to suggest is that they watch the latest iteration of the Wednesday Addams series on Netflix. Ask your child, what does it feel like when you feel? And chances are the Wednesday story gives those kids the tools to answer that question. To be clear, you can't diagnose a juvenile as sociopathic or psychopathic, but you don't even want oppositional defiant disorder, early onset conduct disorder. These are red flags. These are the sort of precursors to sociopathy, and no parent wants that for their kid. And I understand this is such a hypocrisy in that sociopath is thrown around mercilessly to describe every manner of evil. And yet everybody claims to know a sociopath. Everybody claims to have dated a sociopath. Everybody claims to
live with one.
Everybody loves the sociopath shows. And when I have had conversations with these people, all they want to do is unburden themselves and find a way to normalize what they perceive as sociopathic behavior. But I've got news for you. This isn't sociopathic behavior. This is the human condition. How does feeling feel like for you? I think that's a very benign and evolved way to have that conversation, as opposed to, I think you might be a sociopath. Even someone who does identify with a sociopathic checklist is going to probably be defensive if somebody says that, because of the way that word is used incorrectly. But how does feeling feel like for you is not a question I think is asked enough. And it could be that your partner is experiencing emotion differently than you are, and that no one has ever bothered to ask. And I think that at the very least, feeling seen, feeling like you have a safe space to explore how you experience emotion is a wonderful place to start.
This is almost over.
I didn't want my memoir to be a glamorization of this personality type. My goal in writing the book was I wanted people like me to feel seen. And I wanted to offer a humanized take on a dehumanized disorder. It's really easy when you were writing off a huge group of people as monsters to just discount everything about them. But when you can put the face of a child on it, when you can put the face of a mother, a wife, someone who is living a high functioning life, that changes the landscape a little bit. And I wanted others like me to see themselves represented by something other than a serial killer. I wanted to give them a hope for a happy, loving relationship, motherhood, if they choose, friendships. I mean, these things are very possible for someone with sociopathy if they're given the tools and the space to learn. I don't think it's as interesting to the public as the monster serial killer definition that everyone's fond of. If you don't trust me, if you don't feel that you can trust me, don't. Go out and do the research yourself. I've said this before, if everybody who came across my story went out and fact-checked the research, I think that in itself would shift the narrative. You don't have to believe me. Believe the research. Believe the other researchers. Believe the Society for the Scientific Study of Psychopathy. Believe them. It's not about me. It's about sociopathy and those struggling to get treatment. And I feel that if more people understood the research, it wouldn't matter who was telling the story, because the research is really the most important part. The real work is let's get into the affect. I would love to reclassify this disorder, psychopathy and sociopathy, as low affect disorder. It's such a wonderful name because
Sounds
sociopath,
nicer.
psychopath, those are so stigmatized and they are so activating. Whereas low affect disorder, it speaks directly to the psychological underpinnings of the behavior. Well, I think that's happened a lot in psychology. Look at mental retardation, for instance. You would never use that word today.
don't.
And yet that was a clinical diagnosis for a long time.
No.
And then they changed it because it had become so negatively stigmatized, rightfully so. Multiple personality disorder. That's another one that they replaced with a different name, specifically because it had become too stigmatized. Why can't they do that for psychopathy or sociopathy? As long as we continue to identify it based only on the most extreme examples, we're not going to get anywhere in terms of treatment or understanding. And the research also indicates that the majority of people who fall on the sociopathic spectrum fall on the mild to moderate side. And there's a lot of disagreement on how to test and where individuals who fall on that lower end of the spectrum, what they should be labeled as. There should be more consistency, because if you're talking about a disorder that represents
About
millions
3
of
minutes
people,
or so.
and most
be
of those
in about
people
3
fall
minutes
on the
we'll
mild
talk
to
about
moderate
that.
side of the spectrum, we should have a working treatment plan, a working diagnostic kit. We should have things that are available, well, certainly more available than they are now. In terms of a general treatment plan, I don't think that we're much closer, but I think we're getting there. And I think because more people are speaking about psychopathy and antisocial personality disorders and because they're speaking about them at a younger age, again, this speaks to that ability to feel more compassion for someone who is antisocial if they are a child or if they are younger. When a child is acting out, you don't want to throw them in prison. And even if you did, you can't. You have to find ways to deal with it.
Hi, I'm a producer and authorised account. If you enjoyed this video, then please subscribe and...
All right, so we'll take her off. I thought she's very interesting. I have ordered the book. I can't wait to read it now. She's, just some of the things she describes, sorry, I got this little M&M in my mouth, but some things she described is just like, I can see that in other people, and like she said, a lot of people, when they start listening to it and they start hearing it and then they're looking at themselves going, oh my gosh, is that me? I mean, if people aren't tested for it, I guess. It's very interesting, very interesting. So once I get the book will be on Monday. I'm going to read it. I'll read it to y'all if you want me to. I'm fine with that. Or find a way to read it with y'all. How about that? Because, again, we don't want to get the problem with the, what's it called? Copyright situation. Nobody wants that. Well, I mean, I know I changed my subject today in the middle of the show, but that's okay. I just was not really feeling the other thing as I advertised. I don't know. I just didn't really like it. I didn't like it. So I'm going to retitle this and I'm going to take out part of it. But anyway, it's so good to see y'all all. I'm going to be traveling tomorrow to go see my son. I think we're going to do a live show tomorrow night together. We've done a couple before together. It's always fun. We're going to unbox our Hot Mart Labubu's and talk about Labubu and Labubu. Anyway, it's a funny topic. It's good to see you all. It's pouring down rain here and I'm seeing lightning. So I'll see y'all later. Have a good afternoon. Bye, guys. Thanks for stopping by. See you later. Peace out.